Such confiscation is invalid due to violation of Section 124. Section 125 of the Customs Act, 1962, Option 2 pay fine in lieu of confiscation, redemption fine. Statutory provision. Section 125 of the Customs Act, 1962 empowers the adjudicating authority to allow redemption of confiscated goods on payment of a fine in lieu of confiscation, instead of ordering absolute confiscation. Meaning in simple terms, when goods are held liable to confiscation, Customs may allow the owner to get back the goods by paying a redemption fine. This is in addition to applicable customs duty and any penalty imposed under the Act. Key features of Section 125. एक discretion of adjudicating authority. Grant of redemption fine is discretionary, not automatic. Authority must consider nature of violation, intent, mens rea, whether goods are prohibited or restricted, though prohibited versus non-prohibited goods. Non-prohibited goods. Authority shall ordinarily give an option to redeem goods on payment of fine. Prohibited goods. Authority may, but is not bound to, give redemption option. In serious cases, absolute confiscation is permissible. Teen quantum of redemption fine. Fine must be reasonable and proportionate. Generally linked to market value of goods and margin of profit. Fine cannot be arbitrary or punitive. Charge separate from penalty. Redemption fine penalty. Both can be imposed simultaneously. Fine to redeem goods. Penalty for the offense role of the person. Legal safeguards judicial principles. Courts have held that redemption fine should not exceed the economic gain. Authority must record reasons if redemption is denied. Confiscation with disproportionate fine can be interfered with in appeal. Practical illustration. An importer misdeclares classification, but goods are otherwise legal. Customs confiscates the goods under Section 111, but allows redemption under Section 125 on payment of fine plus duty and penalty. Section 126 of the Customs Act, 1962, on confiscation, property vests in the central government. Statutory provision. Section 126 of the Customs Act, 1962 states the legal consequence of confiscation. Once goods are confiscated, ownership vests absolutely in the central government. Meaning in simple terms, when Customs confiscates goods through a valid adjudication order, the previous owner's rights end and the central government becomes the lawful owner of those goods. The government may then sell, destroy, or otherwise dispose of the goods as per law. Key elements of Section 126. एक vesting of ownership. Confiscated goods automatically vest in the central government. No separate transfer or process is required after confiscation. Though when does vesting occur? Vesting occurs only after a lawful confiscation order passed by a competent adjudicating authority, Section 122. After SCN and hearing, Section 124. And not merely on seizure, Section 110. Teen effect of vesting. Once vested, the government can sell the goods, auction tender, destroy them, especially prohibited or hazardous goods, use them for official purposes where permitted, dispose of them as per prescribed rules. 4 key cap relation with redemption, Section 125. If the adjudicating authority allows redemption and the person pays the redemption fine, duty, and penalty, goods are released and do not vest. If redemption is not allowed or not exercised, confiscation becomes absolute, and goods vest in government under Section 126. Important legal clarifications. Seizure confiscation. Seized goods remain the owner's property until confiscated. Appeal pending. If a confiscation order is set aside on appeal, vesting under Section 126 fails, and goods or sale proceeds must be returned as per law. Practical illustration. Customs confiscates misdeclared imported goods and does not allow redemption. Upon confiscation, ownership vests in the central government under Section 126, and customs may auction the goods. Section 127 of the Customs Act, 1962 award of confiscation or penalty. Statutory provision. Section 127 of the Customs Act, 1962 provides that confiscation of goods or imposition of penalty must be made by a formal adjudication order passed by a competent customs authority. Meaning in simple terms, customs cannot confiscate goods or impose penalties informally. There must be a written, reasoned order passed by an authorized adjudicating officer, Section 122. After following due process, Section 124. Key aspects of Section 127. एक formal adjudication is mandatory. Confiscation or penalty can be ordered only through adjudication, not through oral directions or administrative notes. Though competent authority. Order must be passed by officer competent under Section 122 based on value penalty limits. Order by an incompetent authority is void. 3. Reasoned, speaking, order. The order must discuss facts and evidence, deal with reply to SCN, give reasons for conclusions. Non-speaking orders are liable to be set aside. 4. Key cap confiscation penalty may be combined. 1. Adjudication order may confiscate goods, sections 111, 113, 115, etc. Impose penalty, sections 11 to 114, 116, 117, etc. Allow redemption fine, section 125. Section 127 of the Customs Act, 1962 award of confiscation or penalty, clear exam ready explanation. Statutory provision. Section 127 of the Customs Act, 1962 states that confiscation of goods or imposition of penalty can be made only by an order of adjudication passed by a competent customs authority. What Section 127 actually means? Customs cannot confiscate goods or impose penalties casually or administratively. There must be a formal adjudication order passed after following due process. Without an adjudication order, there is no valid confiscation or penalty. Essential requirements under Section 127. 1. Adjudication is mandatory. Confiscation or penalty must be through a written adjudication order, not by Caesar memo, Panchnama, or internal noting. Though competent authority only. The order must be passed by an officer authorized under Section 122 and within his monetary jurisdiction. Order by an incompetent officer, void ab initio. 3. Key cap due process must be followed. Before passing an order under Section 127, Customs must comply with Section 124 show cause notice plus hearing. Principles of natural justice. Failure order liable to be set aside. Charge speaking, reasoned, order. The adjudication order must discuss facts, deal with defense reply, give reasons for confiscation or penalty. A non-speaking order is illegal. 5. Key cap what can be awarded in one order. An order under Section 127 may include confiscation, sections 111/113/115, etc. Penalty, sections 112/114/116/117. Redemption fine, section 125. What Section 127 does not cover? Arrest, section 104. Search seizure, sections 105, 110. Criminal prosecution, section 135. Practical illustration. Customs seizes goods and later issues SCN. After hearing, the Commissioner passes an order confiscating goods and imposing penalty. This final adjudication order is the award under Section 127. Section 127 in the legal flow. Seizure, 110, SCN hearing, 124, adjudication authority, 122. Final order award, 127, appeal, 128. Section 128 of the Customs Act, 1962, appeal to Commissioner, appeals. Statutory provision. Section 128 of the Customs Act, 1962 provides the first appellate remedy against an adjudication order passed by a customs officer lower in rank than the principal commissioner of customs. Meaning in simple terms, if you are aggrieved by an adjudication order, confiscation, penalty, redemption fine, duty demand, etc., you can file an appeal to the Commissioner, Appeals, within the prescribed time. Who can file an appeal? Any person aggrieved, including importer bata exporter, customs broker, carrier bata warehouse keeper, any noticee against whom an order is passed, appealable orders, orders passed by Assistant Commissioner bata Deputy Commissioner, Joint Additional Commissioner, where appeal lies to Commissioner, Appeals, as per law. Orders of Commissioner Principal Commissioner are not appealable under Section 128. They go directly to CESTAT under Section 129A. Time limit for filing appeal. Normal time, 60 days from the date of communication of the order. Condonation of delay. Commissioner, Appeals, may allow a further 30 days if sufficient cause is shown. Delay beyond 90 days is not condonable. Form manner. Appeal to be filed in the prescribed form, currently Form CA1, electronically on IceGate. Must be accompanied by copy of the impugned order, grounds of appeal, prescribed appeal fee. Pre-deposit requirement, very important. Appeal is maintainable only if the appellant deposits 7.5% of the duty penalty in dispute as applicable, subject to the statutory cap as notified. Upon payment of pre-deposit, recovery is automatically stayed for the balance amount during pendency of appeal. Powers of Commissioner, Appeals. May confirm the order, modify the order, annul, set aside the order, must pass a reasoned, speaking order, cannot enhance penalty or duty without issuing notice and giving opportunity of hearing. Procedure natural justice. Opportunity of personal hearing must be given. Additional evidence may be admitted subject to rules and reasons. Practical illustration. An importer is penalized and goods are confiscated by an assistant commissioner. The importer files an appeal under Section 128 to the Commissioner, Appeals, within 60 days along with 7.5% pre-deposit. Section 128 in the appeal chain. Adjudication, Sec 127. Appeal to Commissioner, Appeals, Sec 128. Further appeal to CESTAT, Sec 129A, High Court, Supreme Court. Section 129 of the Customs Act, 1962 Powers of Commissioner, Appeals. Statutory provision. Section 129 of the Customs Act, 1962 defines the powers and scope of authority of the Commissioner, Appeals, while deciding an appeal filed under Section 128. Meaning in simple terms, when an appeal is filed before the Commissioner, Appeals, Section 129 explains what the Commissioner, Appeals, can do with the case, confirm, modify, annul, or send it back for fresh decision. Powers of Commissioner, Appeals. A. Confirm the order. If the adjudication order is found legal and correct, it may be confirmed in full. Though modify the order. The order may be partly changed, for example, reduction of penalty, reduction of redemption fine, reclassification or revaluation corrections. 3 key cap annul, set aside the order. If the order suffers from jurisdictional defect, violation of Section 124, no SCN hearing, lack of evidence, the Commissioner, Appeals, may annul the order completely. 4. Remand the case. Commissioner, Appeals, may remand the matter to the adjudicating authority. Direct fresh adjudication with specific instructions, especially where facts need re-examination. Power of enhancement, very important. Commissioner, Appeals, can enhance. Duty. Fine. Penalty. Only after issuing a specific notice of enhancement and giving the appellant an opportunity of being heard. Without this, enhancement is illegal. Admission of additional evidence. Commissioner, appeals may admit additional evidence if the adjudicating authority wrongly refused it, or the appellant could not produce it earlier for sufficient cause. Procedural safeguards. Must pass a reasoned, speaking order. Must follow principles of natural justice. Cannot travel beyond the scope of the show cause notice. Practical illustration. An adjudicating authority imposes excessive penalty. On appeal, the Commissioner, appeals, reduces the penalty after examining proportionality. This is an exercise of power under Section 129. Section 130 of the Customs Act, 1962, Appeal to High Court. Statutory provision. Section 130 of the Customs Act, 1962 provides for an appeal to the High Court against certain orders passed by the Customs, Excise and Service Tax Appellate Tribunal, CESTAT. Meaning in simple terms, if a party is aggrieved by a CESTAT order, they can approach the jurisdictional High Court, but only on a substantial question of law. Pure questions of fact cannot be appealed under Section 130. When does Section 130 apply? 1. Appealable orders. Orders passed by CESTAT under Section 129B. Not applicable to orders relating to rate of duty or valuation for assessment. These go directly to the Supreme Court under Section 130E. To keycap substantial question of law, mandatory. Appeal lies only if the case involves interpretation of law, jurisdictional errors, violation of principles of natural justice, incorrect application of legal principles. The High Court must formulate the substantial question, S, of law before hearing the appeal. Who can file the appeal? Any aggrieved party, including importer bata exporter, assessee bata noticee, Commissioner of Customs, Revenue Appeal. Time limit for filing appeal: 180 days, 6 months from the date of receipt of the CESTAT order. Delay may be condoned if sufficient cause is shown, subject to judicial discretion. Powers of the High Court. High Court may answer the substantial question, S, of law, confirm, modify, or reverse the CESTAT order, remand the matter to the tribunal if required. Practical examples of substantial questions of law: whether Section 123, burden of proof, was correctly applied, whether penalty under Section 112 can be imposed without mens rea, whether violation of Section 124, SCN hearing, vitiates proceedings, whether tribunal exceeded its jurisdiction. Section 130 versus Section 130E, very important. Aspect. Section 130. Section 130C. Forum. High Court. Supreme Court. Nature of issue. Substantial question of law. Rate of duty bata valuation. Order appealed against. CESTAT order. CESTAT order. Practical illustration. CESTAT decides that Section 123 burden does not apply to certain goods. Revenue challenges this legal interpretation before the High Court under Section 130. Section 131 of the Customs Act, 1962, appearance by authorized representative. Statutory provision. Section 131 of the Customs Act, 1962 allows a party to appear before customs authorities or appellate forums through an authorized representative instead of appearing personally. Meaning in simple terms, if you are involved in customs proceedings, adjudication, appeal, etc., you can appoint someone else to represent you, such as a lawyer or customs broker, subject to prescribed conditions. Who can act as an authorized representative? An authorized representative may include advocate, enrolled under the Advocates Act, customs broker, licensed under customs law, chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, a relative or regular employee in specified circumstances. The representative must be duly authorized in writing. Where can representation be made? Representation is permitted before adjudicating authorities, ACDC, JCADC, Commissioner, Commissioner, Appeals, CESTAT. Other authorities empowered under the Act. Important conditions limitations. The authority may require the personal presence of the person concerned if facts need clarification or statements are required to be recorded. Representation does not take away the authority's power to summon the person, e.g., under Section 108. Ask for documents or explanations. Practical importance. Enables professional handling of SCN replies, personal hearings, appeals and arguments. Especially useful where legal interpretation is involved. Multiple proceedings are pending. Technical customs matters arise. Practical illustration. An importer receives an SCN proposing confiscation and penalty. He authorizes a chartered accountant or advocate to appear and argue the case before the adjudicating authority under Section 131. Section 132 of the Customs Act, 1962 false declaration, false documents, etc. Statutory provision. Section 132 of the Customs Act, 1962 deals with criminal punishment for making false declarations, false statements, or using false documents in connection with customs matters. Meaning in simple terms, if any person knowingly makes a false declaration, makes a false statement, or uses or signs false or incorrect documents in any customs-related transaction, that person commits a criminal offense under Section 132. Acts covered under Section 132. The section applies where a person knowingly makes a false declaration in bill of entry, shipping bill, import-export documents, makes a false statement orally or in writing to customs, signs, uses, or causes to be used, false invoices, false certificates, forged or incorrect documents, gives false information knowing it to be incorrect or misleading. Knowledge, mens rea, is essential. Nature of offense. Criminal offense. Prosecution-oriented, distinct from civil penalties under Sections 112 by 114. Can be invoked independently of confiscation or penalty proceedings. Punishment prescribed. Imprisonment, which may extend up to 2 years, or fine, or both. Exact punishment depends on facts and judicial discretion. Essential ingredients for conviction. To sustain prosecution under Section 132, customs must prove a false declaration statement document was made or used, the accused had knowledge that it was false, and the act was in connection with customs proceedings. Mere clerical error or bona fide mistake does not attract Section 132. Relationship with other provisions. Section. Nature. 112/114. Civil penalty, import-export cases. 132. Criminal offense, false declarations documents. 135. Major offenses, enhanced punishment. 108. Statements on oath. Practical illustration. An importer submits a fake invoice to undervalue goods and evade duty. Apart from confiscation and penalty, he may be prosecuted under Section 132 for using false documents. Important judicial principles. Mens rea is mandatory. Prosecution fails without proof of knowledge. Section 132 should not be invoked mechanically. Prosecution must be based on clear evidence, not assumptions. Section 133 of the Customs Act, 1962, obstruction of customs officers. Statutory provision. Section 133 of the Customs Act, 1962 provides criminal punishment for obstructing or preventing customs officers from lawfully discharging their duties under the Act. Meaning in simple terms, if any person intentionally obstructs, resists, or interferes with a customs officer who is legally performing official duties, that person commits an offense under Section 133. What acts amount to obstruction? Examples include physically blocking or resisting search, seizure, or arrest, threatening, abusing, or intimidating customs officers, preventing entry into premises authorized for search, hiding, removing, or destroying evidence during customs action, creating law and order issues to delay or frustrate proceedings. Obstruction may be physical or non-physical, as long as it hampers lawful duty. Essential ingredients of Section 133. To invoke Section 133, Customs must establish the officer was acting lawfully under the Customs Act, and the accused knowingly and intentionally obstructed such action. If the officer's action itself is unauthorized or illegal, Section 133 will not apply. Punishment prescribed: imprisonment, which may extend to 6 months, or fine, or both. This is a criminal offense, distinct from civil penalties. Relationship with other provisions. Section. Nature. 109. Power to require assistance. 133. Punishment for obstruction. 132. False declaration bata documents. 135. Major customs offenses. Practical illustration. Customs officers conduct a lawful search of a warehouse. The owner locks the premises and prevents entry despite authorization. Such conduct may attract prosecution under Section 133. Important judicial principles. Mens rea, intent, is required. Mere misunderstanding or protest is not enough. Lawful exercise of customs power is a precondition. Section 133 should not be used to penalize legitimate legal resistance or assertion of rights. Section 134 of the Customs Act, 1962, refusal to be X-rayed or to submit to medical examination. Statutory provision. Section 134 of the Customs Act, 1962 provides criminal punishment where a person refuses to be X-rayed or undergo a medical examination, when such examination is lawfully required by customs to detect concealment of smuggled goods inside the body. Meaning in simple terms: if customs has valid grounds to believe that a person is body carrying smuggled goods, e.g., gold capsules, they may require X-ray screening or medical examination by a qualified doctor. Unjustified refusal to cooperate is itself a criminal offense under Section 134. When can Section 134 be invoked? A lawful requirement. The direction for X-ray or medical examination must be based on reason to believe and given by a competent customs officer. Following procedure generally read with Section 103. Though refusal without reasonable cause, the offense is attracted only if the person refuses and has no reasonable medical or lawful excuse. Genuine medical contraindications may be a valid defense. Punishment prescribed: imprisonment, which may extend to 6 months, or fine, or both. This is a criminal offense, separate from confiscation penalty proceedings. Important safeguards principles. Examination must respect human dignity, medical ethics. Female persons must be examined by a female medical practitioner. Coercive or abusive methods are not permitted. Relationship with other sections. Section. Subject. 103. Personal search, right to gazetted officer magistrate. 134. Punishment for refusal to undergo X-ray medical exam. 132. False declaration bata documents. 133. Obstruction of customs officers. 135. Major customs offenses. Practical illustration. Customs suspects a passenger of swallowing gold capsules. The passenger refuses X-ray examination without medical reason. Apart from further action, he may be prosecuted under Section 134. Section 135 of the Customs Act, 1962, punishment for smuggling, major criminal offenses. Statutory provision. Section 135 of the Customs Act, 1962 prescribes criminal punishment for serious customs offences, commonly referred to as smuggling offences, involving mens rea, knowledge intent, and crossing specified value thresholds. Meaning in simple terms, when a person knowingly commits serious customs violations, such as smuggling, fraudulent evasion of duty, or dealing with smuggled goods, they can face imprisonment and fine, in addition to confiscation and civil penalties. Offences covered under Section 135. A person commits an offence if they knowingly evade or attempt to evade customs duty, or fraudulently import export goods, or possess, transport, conceal, sell, purchase, or deal with smuggled goods, or abet any of the above acts, where the case falls within the thresholds prescribed under the Act notifications. To categories of punishment, very important. Category I, serious cases. Generally involving prohibited goods or high value exceeding notified limits. Punishment: rigorous imprisonment up to 7 years and fine. Mandatory minimum imprisonment may apply as per Facts Statute. Examples: smuggling of prohibited goods, e.g., arms, narcotics, subject to other laws. High-value gold electronics smuggling beyond thresholds. Category 2, other cases. Lower value or non-prohibited goods. Punishment: imprisonment up to 3 years, or fine, or both. Mens rea is mandatory. Knowledge or intent is essential. Bona fide mistakes, clerical errors, or interpretational disputes do not attract Section 135. Bailable but are non-bailable nature. Serious Category I offences generally non-bailable, subject to notifications and facts. Other cases generally bailable. Relationship with other provisions. Provision. Nature. Sections 111 बटा 113. Confiscation, civil. Sections 112 बटा 114. Civil penalties. Section 135. Criminal prosecution. Section 104. Power to arrest. Section 137. Cognizance sanction. Civil and criminal proceedings can run simultaneously. Procedure for prosecution. Requires sanction as per Section 137. Trial before competent criminal court. Standard of proof, beyond reasonable doubt, criminal law. Practical illustration. An individual is caught knowingly transporting high-value smuggled gold. Apart from confiscation and penalty, he can be prosecuted under Section 135, facing imprisonment and fine. Section 136 of the Customs Act, 1962, offences by companies. Statutory provision. Section 136 of the Customs Act, 1962 fixes criminal liability on companies and the persons responsible for their conduct when an offence under the Act is committed by a company. Meaning in simple terms, when a company commits a customs offence, e.g., smuggling, false declaration, evasion of duty, the company is liable, and persons in charge of and responsible for the conduct of its business, such as directors, partners, managers, can also be prosecuted unless they prove lack of knowledge or due diligence. Who can be prosecuted? 1. The company. The corporate entity itself is liable for prosecution and punishment. 2 persons in charge responsible. Managing director. Whole-time director. Partner, in case of firm. Manager officer controlling day-to-day operations. Mere designation is not enough. Responsibility and control are key. To part structure of Section 136. Subsection 1. Uda Smiley, vicarious liability. If an offence is committed by a company, every person in charge and responsible at the time is deemed guilty. Defense available. The person proves the offence was committed without their knowledge, or they exercised all due diligence to prevent it. Subsection: to consent, connivance, or neglect. Even if a person is not in charge, they are liable if the offence occurred with their consent or their connivance or due to their neglect. This widens liability to officers who actively or negligently contributed. What is a company? Includes company under Companies Act, firm, LLP, association of persons, important legal principles from courts. Specific averments are required in the complaint. How the accused was in charge responsible. Blanket arraignment of all directors is not permitted. Independent, non-executive directors are not automatically liable. Burden shifts to accused only after prosecution shows prima facie responsibility. Practical illustration. A private limited company files false import documents to evade duty. Customs prosecutes the company and the managing director who supervised imports. A non-executive director may escape liability if no role or knowledge is shown. Section 137 of the Customs Act, 1962, cognizance of offences requirement of sanction. Statutory provision. Section 137 of the Customs Act, 1962 lays down how and when criminal courts can take cognizance of offences under the Customs Act and who can launch prosecution. Meaning in simple terms, customs offences cannot be prosecuted casually. A criminal court can take up a customs offence only when a proper complaint is filed and it is filed by an authorized customs officer with sanction authorization as required. This section acts as a procedural safeguard against arbitrary prosecution. Key provisions of Section 137. A cognizance only on complaint. No court shall take cognizance of an offence under the Customs Act except on a complaint made by a customs officer or a person authorized by the central government. Police cannot file an FIR and prosecute customs offences on their own. To key cap requirement of sanction authorization. Prosecution must be sanctioned or authorized by the Principal Commissioner of Customs as per rules notifications. Absence of valid sanction prosecution is not maintainable. 3. Who files the complaint? The complaint is usually filed by Superintendent Assistant Commissioner of Customs, authorized by the Commissioner. 4. Key cap applicability to all penal sections. Section 137 applies to prosecution under Section 132, false declaration documents. Section 133, obstruction. Section 134, refusal of medical examination. Section 135, smuggling, major offences. Section 136, offences by companies. Purpose of Section 137. To ensure administrative scrutiny before criminal prosecution. Only serious and fit cases go to criminal courts. To protect citizens from frivolous or mechanical prosecution. Judicial principles, well settled. Courts have held that valid sanction is mandatory. Sanction must show application of mind, awareness of facts and allegations. Defective or absent sanction can vitiate the entire prosecution. Practical illustration. Customs proposes to prosecute an importer under Section 135. Before filing the criminal complaint, Commissioner sanction is obtained. Only then can the magistrate take cognizance under Section 137. Section 138 of the Customs Act, 1962, presumption as to documents in certain cases. Statutory provision. Section 138 of the Customs Act, 1962 creates legal presumptions about the truth, authorship, and contents of documents seized or produced in customs proceedings, subject to rebuttal. Meaning in simple terms, when customs seizes or obtains documents during an investigation, or when documents are produced in response to summons, the law presumes that the documents are genuine and the contents are true and they belong to a signed by the person whose name or handwriting appears on them, unless the person concerned proves otherwise. What presumptions does Section 138 create? A presumption of authenticity. A document seized from a person or produced by them is presumed to be authentic. To key cap presumption of truth of contents. The contents of such documents are presumed to be true. 3. Key cap presumption of signature handwriting. If a document appears to be signed or written by a person, it is presumed to be their signature handwriting. These are rebuttable presumptions, not absolute. When does section 138 apply? Documents seized under the Act, e.g., during search under sections 105/106 or produced during inquiry adjudication, e.g., under section 108 summons. Applies in adjudication proceedings, prosecution proceedings under the Customs Act. How can the presumption be rebutted? The person concerned may rebut by showing, for example, document is forged or fabricated. Signature handwriting is not theirs. Document is incomplete, unauthorized, or taken out of context. Entries are rough, tentative, or not acted upon. Lack of corroboration with independent evidence. Once credible rebuttal is shown, the burden shifts back to customs. Important safeguards judicial principles. Section 138 does not dispense with proof entirely. It only eases the initial burden. Presumption cannot override natural justice. Loose sheets, unsigned papers, or private diaries generally need corroboration. In prosecution, courts still require proof beyond reasonable doubt. Practical illustration. During a search, Customs seizes a ledger showing cash payments for undervaluation. Under Section 138, entries are presumed true. If the importer proves it was a draft estimate never acted upon, the presumption can be rebutted. Section 139 of the Customs Act, 1962, presumption as to culpable mental state. Statutory provision. Section 139 of the Customs Act, 1962 introduces a legal presumption of culpable mental state, mens rea, for certain offences under the Act. In simple terms, the court will presume that the accused had the required intention knowledge unless the accused proves otherwise. What does culpable mental state mean? It includes intention, knowledge, belief, reason to believe. These are mental elements normally required to establish criminal liability. What Section 139 does? Core rule. For offences under the Customs Act where mens rea is an ingredient, especially criminal offences like Section 132, 133, 134, 135. The court shall presume the existence of a culpable mental state. The burden shifts to the accused to prove that they did not have such mental state. Standard of proof, very important. The accused must rebut the presumption beyond reasonable doubt. This is a higher burden than the usual preponderance of probability used in civil cases. When is Section 139 invoked? Mainly in criminal prosecutions, not routine adjudication. Commonly applied in cases under Section 132, false declaration, false documents. Section 133, obstruction. Section 134, refusal of medical examination. Section 135, smuggling offences. How can the accused rebut the presumption? By proving, for example, bona fide belief or genuine misunderstanding, clerical or technical error without intent, lack of control or knowledge, especially for directors' employees, due diligence exercised to prevent the offence. Once credible rebuttal is shown, the burden shifts back to customs. Important judicial principles. Section 139 does not eliminate the need for a fair trial. Presumption applies only after basic facts of the offence are established. It cannot be applied mechanically. Courts scrutinize facts closely. Often read together with Section 136, offences by companies, and Section 137, sanction for prosecution. Practical illustration. An importer is prosecuted under Section 135 for smuggling. The court presumes intent knowledge under Section 139. If the importer proves the violation arose from a bona fide classification dispute, the presumption may be rebutted. Section 140 of the Customs Act, 1962, offences by officers of customs. Statutory provision. Section 140 of the Customs Act, 1962 deals with criminal liability of customs officers themselves when they commit offences under colour of their official duty. Meaning in simple terms, customs officers are not above the law. If a customs officer abuses official position or commits an offence while acting or pretending to act in official capacity, they can be prosecuted, but only after prior sanction of the central government. This section balances accountability of officers and protection against frivolous prosecution for bona fide official acts. Key ingredients of section 140. एक who is covered? Any officer of customs, including superintendent, inspector, appraising bata preventive officers, any customs official acting under the Act. दो nature of acts covered. Acts done in official capacity or purported to be done in official capacity. Examples: illegal seizure, excessive use of force, misuse of power during search arrest, acting beyond authority under the guise of duty. 3. Mandatory sanction for prosecution. No court shall take cognizance of such offence without prior sanction of the central government. Absence of sanctioned prosecution is not maintainable. 4. Scope of protection. Protection is not absolute. It applies only where the act has a reasonable nexus with official duty. Acts of personal vendetta, private gain, purely criminal behavior may fall outside protection depending on facts. Relationship with other provisions. Section. Subject. 137. Sanction for prosecution, general. 140. Sanction for prosecuting customs officers. CRPC 197. Sanction to prosecute public servants. 135. Smuggling offences. Judicial principles well settled. Courts have held that sanction is required only if the offence is connected with official duty. If the act is totally unrelated to duty, sanction may not be necessary. Sanction must show application of mind. Practical illustration. A customs officer conducts a search without jurisdiction and allegedly assaults a person during the operation. Prosecution against the officer cannot proceed without central government sanction under Section 140, provided the act is linked to official duty. Section 141 of the Customs Act, 1962, Limitation of Suits and Prosecutions. Statutory provision. Section 141 of the Customs Act, 1962 places time limits, limitation on suits and other legal proceedings, including prosecutions, that are instituted against the government or customs officers for acts done under the Act or rules. Meaning in simple terms, if any person wants to file a civil suit or initiate legal proceedings against customs or the government for actions taken in good faith under the Customs Act, they must do so within the prescribed time. Late actions are barred. Key provisions of Section 141. 1 key cap time limit for suits proceedings. No suit or legal proceeding shall be instituted after the expiry of the prescribed limitation period from the date of the act complained of or the date when the cause of action arose. The limitation period is generally 6 months, unless otherwise specified by law or interpreted with the Limitation Act taught. Though acts covered applies to acts done or purported to be done in pursuance of the Customs Act or rules and in good faith. Examples: search, seizure, arrest, adjudication orders, preventive actions by customs officers, teen protection to government officers, prevent stale, delayed, or vexatious litigation, ensures that officers are not harassed for bona fide official actions taken long ago. Char good faith is crucial. Protection applies only if the act is done in good faith. If the act is mala fide, without jurisdiction, or purely personal but are criminal. Courts may refuse protection under Section 141. Relationship with other provisions. Provision. Purpose. Section 140. Sanction to prosecute customs officers. Section 141. Limitation on suits proceedings. Limitation Act 1963. General Limitation Law. CRPC bata CPC. Procedural Law. Practical illustration. A person alleges illegal seizure by customs in January. If he files a civil suit after the limitation period, the suit may be dismissed as barred under Section 141